What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA show. We are back. My name is Huzaifa, Justin James here, and we have a special guest, ladies and gentlemen. If you guys are familiar, I'm sure you are. Massive media member is joining us on the show, Lynch on Sports, James Lynch. James, welcome to the show. So excited to have you on.
Well, I'm excited too. What an intro. Thanks for the nice plug there off the top.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been called a massive media member, but I'll take it. I appreciate it, man.
Of course you are, dude. I've been watching you for years, dude. How do you know Justin?
Interviews. We've been doing interviews for a long time. I know his management group really well. So we always just sort of, before the fight, after the fight, we would always kind of link up and do interviews and all that. And so that's, we go way back. I do a lot of fighter interviews, so I tend to know a lot of fighters.
Interviews, your prediction videos. Yeah, I got to tell you, your prediction video, I could not believe it when I'm a huge Hamzat fan. I don't know if Justin's told you, probably not, but you'll get to know that if you get to know me. So when you were doing the fighter prediction videos, which are so underrated because I think those are some of the best data points to try and predict and understand fights. But it was overwhelmingly a pro Robert Whittaker for that fight. The second time that they scheduled it, everybody was picking Robert Whittaker. Did you feel like people were getting it wrong and fighters were getting it wrong there?
Unfortunately not, because I also picked Robert Whittaker in that fight. And my thinking was just if Hamzat couldn't finish the fight early, I think the longer the fight went, I think that would favor Robert Whittaker because he's got the 5-round experience. And up until that point, Rob really had not been finished a ton. I know DDP did, Adesanya, but if you look at his overall body of work at middleweight, he fought guys like Yoel Romero, he fought, Darren Till, Jared Cannonier. These guys all have, serious power and serious finishing ability, and they were able to go the distance with Rob. So I just felt like if Chimaev couldn't do it, because we saw against Gilbert Burns, Kamaru Usman, he slowed down as those rounds went on. In a 5-round fight, I would tend to think that Whittaker would take it, but it didn't even make it that far, and he went out there and took care of business.
I feel like I'm a Hamzat apologist because I have reasons and rationales why all those fights went that way. Like, for example, with Kamaru Usman, everybody was giving him crap about that fight, but I'm like, well, he injured his hand severely, and he was also really sick going into that fight. So I'm like, I don't think those things will be an issue. I think too, and we're going to get into the main topics for today. I don't know how I got on this.
Yeah, no worries. It's all good.
But the main thing is, I think if you listen to his lead up to the Robert Whittaker fight, he's re-engineered his entire protocol. Now he trains in Russia, so the heat's not bothering him as much. He's had thyroid surgery, so I feel like the cardio issues are made up. I don't think he's going to have any more issues when he fights Dricus, hopefully in the summer or whenever they schedule that fight. That's my thinking. Do you agree with me, or do you think that's just what everybody says? Hey, we've made improvements, but his cardio will continue to be an issue.
Sorry, can you just mention that? Sorry, you just cut out for a second on my end. What were you asking me there? Sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, so my stance is I think cardio is no longer going to be an issue for Hamzat. I think those are relics of the past. I think he's adjusted his training camp. He's had thyroid surgery. He's made all of these massive adjustments so that won't be an issue anymore. Do you agree with me, or do you think that I'm falling for the hype and that's still going to be an issue?
Well, I don't think we'll really know until he goes 5 rounds. I think, again, it's always going to be one of those things where, his next fight might not go out of the first or second round if he fights DDP. I mean, DDP's great, but we've seen Chimaev really go out there and steamroll guys throughout his career, so that could be a possibility as well. It's tough to say because, the Gilbert Burns fight was another one where he slowed down a bit. But like you said, he's getting some, he had some health issues and all that too. He was cutting a lot of weight for that fight. So that could have been the factor, but it's really, like, here's a quick example. Like, Umar Nurmagomedov fights that newcomer Bezcat or whatever. He fights him, and he was like super tired in that fight. And I guess we found out after he was dealing with something, because in the next fight against Corey Sandhagen, he goes 5 rounds, he's fine. Right. So it's like, how do you gauge like how good he is cardio wise? I think cardio is a really interesting thing because there's certain fighters in certain fights that look fine and then other fights they don't. So it's like, it's kind of tough to gauge what you're going to expect in those fights.
That's such a great point. And I think people often jump to a conclusion where they might see one awkward, like a weird display of cardio, and they're like, that guy's got terrible cardio. It's so funny in that little fraction how people make those judgments. But anyways, all right, really fun. Can't wait to get into this. Before we get into the main topics quickly, Justin, if you guys don't know, MGAL4 Productions, what's up? Oh, by the way, people are shouting out to James. MGAL4 Productions says, James, what's good? But Justin has a huge fight coming up this Friday, right before UFC 313. And that's why he was talking to James earlier today about his bare knuckle debut, which is going to be going down in Missoula, Montana. I'm going to be commentating for that fight. But anyways, Justin, let us turn it over to you this is it. We'll maybe do one more show if you're available even on Friday. Maybe it'll just be me solo, but this might be the last time we talk to you before you go into battle. How are you feeling?
I feel great, man. I just was talking to James for a couple minutes about it. Training camp for bare knuckle has been so much easier than training for an MMA fight, not having to worry about wrestling, not having to worry about grappling, not having to worry about kicks, elbows. With that being said, I have my other worries. Bare knuckle getting cracked in the teeth is going to fucking suck, but it is what it is. It's the dance we dance, and yeah, I'm in good shape right now. My weight's ready to go. I'm ready to go, man. I'm excited. I'm nervous. I'm scared. I have it's just a plethora of emotions, man, as I go through the day. Like some days or sometimes, like early this morning, I'm fucking jamming out to rap music and heavy metal on my way to the gym. Like, I'm going to kill this guy. I'm going to kill this guy. And then I sit down for a second. It's like, whoa, well, what, like, this is going to fucking suck. And, so it's just a roller coaster of emotion. And I was telling James, weighing in on Thursday, it's like, that's the part I'm not looking forward to, is getting in the tub and sitting there for no reason. Because really, at the end of the day, there's absolutely no point for me and Lloyd to cut weight at this point in our career. But he was trying to make all these barriers that I have to get through, because I don't think Lloyd really wants to fight. And I mean, obviously, he's going to say how good he feels and how great he's ready. But I mean, all the stipulations he's made from, when originally our fight coming together was supposed to be an MMA fight, and then he didn't want to do MMA, then it had to be a lightweight, then it's just been all these up and down crazy things, but I'm feeling good. I'm ready to go. And whatever happens Friday, happens Friday.
That roller coaster of emotions that you're talking about, I'm sure it's pros and cons, but I imagine when you're feeling really good and amped up, it's got to be some of the highest highs other than winning the actual fight, right? Or going through that performance. Is that roller coaster in your 78 fights, 50 pro, 28 pro, 50 amateur? Is that roller coaster something that you love, that you get excited about, or do you hate the roller coaster of emotions?
I used to love it, and now it's just like I'm just kind of used to it. When I was younger, like I'm telling you, like there are times I'll be driving to the car and the song will turn on, and I'll start tearing up. I'm like, I'm gonna fucking kill this guy, and it's like the greatest. You feel like inhuman, like it's just nobody can beat me, and you're going crazy in your car and you're screaming and yelling. I don't know if you guys do that, but I've been in my car just screaming and yelling like motherfucker, like let's go. And then there's other times to where it's like I was commentating for CFFC. We were doing Division I wrestling, and the night before our show, they had Knuckle Mania on. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to eat some edibles, and I'm going to watch Knuckle Mania to see if I can translate any of the technique. And I'm just sitting there smoking a joint, eating edibles, just like, this is going to fucking suck. Like, this guy got his teeth, 3 guys get their teeth knocked out, 2 guys break their hand, 1 guy breaks his nose. It's like, this is going to fucking suck.
It's crazy, but that's why all of us MMA fans have such respect for fighters, but especially guys who transition over. James, in your experience, what percentage of MMA fighters that you've talked to or that you've interviewed are even willing to do bare knuckle? Because I feel like a lot of MMA fighters who do arguably one of the craziest jobs on the planet, they're like, nah, bare knuckle, that's too much for me.
Yeah, I'd say it's mixed. I certainly get a lot of people that are like, yeah, I would love to do that when my career's over. Plenty that are like, this would be fun. There seems to be some money in this too, like all that stuff. And then there's others that are like, nah, I'm good. Like, I don't need to get my face like all busted up and all that different stuff. So I'd say if I had to do like a percentage with my very limited research, market research here, I'd say probably like, I don't know, it's probably like 50-50. I get some that are into it. And then I'd say others that aren't so much.
Got you. Okay, so interesting. All right, well, Justin, we wish you the best of luck. MGal4 Productions does ask, I don't know if you want to say this or not, but he says how much weight you got to cut. Do you want to talk about it or no?
Yeah, I'm like 12. I was 172 this morning. 12 pounds come Thursday. I'm overhydrated again. But here's the thing: I hate cutting weight, and I hate cutting weight even more when there's no reason to. So there's absolutely no reason to. Again, it's not like, oh, we cut weight, we make weight, and the winter goes on. There's absolutely no point of cutting weight for this fight, and I don't know why Lloyd was because his last fight was at 170. I wanted to do it at 170. I want to do it at 165. There's absolutely no reason to cut weight for this fight. He's just trying to make stipulations so where I don't show up.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I hope the weight cut goes well. I know you always say the weight cut is the worst part about the entire fighting process. So we wish you the best of luck. We will be in Montana and MGal4 Productions. Hopefully you're still going to make it out there. That'd be awesome. And we will see you then. MGal4 Productions says at 155. No, it's at 160. Okay. 160. Here we go. Let's get into the mix. We had a crazy fight this weekend. And James, God, I want to turn it over to you first in terms of this Manel Kape performance, because when I first watched it, obviously, we're going to talk about the eye pokes, but when I first watched it, I was so impressed. I've been a fan of Manel Kape for a long time. I think he's exciting. I think he's really talented, and he's got a fun fight style. So let's first talk without the eye pokes. What did you think about that performance on Saturday?
Yeah, I do this video on my channel called The Stock Report where I talk about fighters that their stock's gone up, their stock's gone down, and Manel Kape was my biggest stock riser because if you look at the flyweight division right now, they need some new sort of blood, so to speak. I know Kai Kara France has got the title fight with Pantoja. It looks like, I don't know if that's confirmed yet. Certainly looks like they're going that way with that fight. But after that, I think Manel Kape has certainly emerged to be that next contender, especially with Brandon Royval's. I just saw a video on him this morning. Unfortunately, he's still sidelined due to some concussion stuff. So it really sort of opens the door here. And it's a fresh matchup in the sense that Pantoja and him fought a long time ago. It would be interesting to see with Kape's improvement since then how that fight would look, but he looked to me like a title contender in that fight. This was a good test for him. I think Manel Kape had a lot to lose in the spot. If you look at Asu, his opponent, he had a couple good wins, but nothing like that really caught people's attention. And for Manel Kape coming off that disappointing loss to Muhammad Mokaev, he gets the win over Bruno Silva in highlight reel fashion, but could he do that again against a more established opponent? Nothing against Bruno Silva, but obviously Asu was right in that conversation, and for him to do that in a main event was very impressive. So I think he's right there. I think people have been wanting to see Manel Kape fight for a title, and I think he certainly made a strong case to, at the very least, fight the winner of that Pantoja and France fight coming up.
That would be so exciting because he's fun too. He brings a lot of excitement. He talks a lot of smack. He backs it up. And then it begs a very interesting question. Now, I know I'd like to think about these fantasy timelines. If this happens, then that happens, then what will happen here? So let's imagine he gets the rematch. Let's imagine Pantoja. Actually, it doesn't matter who wins, but let's say one of those guys wins. And we have Manel Kape go in and he wins. Then it raises a very interesting question about Muhammad Mokaev, in my opinion. He actually reached out to us on our Instagram page yesterday because I made a video about him. I'm a big fan of Mokaev. I really want to see him come back to the UFC. I think it's a travesty that he was let go considering he could be the champ right now. Do you think if Manel Kape won, that might push the UFC to bring Mokaev back to challenge for the belt? Or do you think his time has passed?
So it's kind of like two separate things here because I think Mokaev could potentially come back to the UFC, but I don't think him coming back because of Kape would be the reason. If you remember that whole build up to the fight, they had the back and forth. There was the incident in Vegas a couple of months before, and then there was the incident like during fight week that happened and all this stuff. There's a lot of bad blood there, but what did it translate to? Not a very good fight, let's be honest. Yeah. I mean, that was not what it was. You have all this build up and it ended up being kind of a dull fight. So I don't think the UFC, my understanding is, and I've heard this from multiple fighters, Steve Erceg being one of them in particular, that Muhammad Mokaev wasn't just released because of his fighting style. There were issues behind the scenes with the UFC, that UFC staff didn't enjoy working with him, that he was kind of, I don't know, like a diva or whatever. I'm not really sure, but I just kept hearing from multiple people, like people that would have no reason to bring this up, talk about how he was difficult with the UFC. So I think that has more to do with it. Because look, at the end of the day, I always hear this term Dana White privilege that people talk about, where people get good opportunities. I think it's what's best for business, business, where if you're good for business, Muhammad Mokaev is like finishing all of his opponents, and he's like this huge, and he has a massive following. He's very, very big. If he's doing all this stuff, I think the UFC is a little bit more lenient on some of the other stuff. But if you're winning fights by decision and you're not someone that's great to deal with behind the scenes, and again, this is not me saying this, I've heard this from other people, then I can understand them, cutting him, because it's like what are we dealing with all this for if it's not good for business? So to answer your question, not anytime soon. I don't think he'll be back.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I hope it happens at some point, just for that element of, hey, I'd like to see the UFC be the place with the best fighters in the world. And it feels weird with Muhammad Mokaev not being in the UFC. But let's get back to Manel Kape. And then, Justin, I want to turn over to James first, and then I want to turn over to you to talk about these eye pokes. Because it seems like we have Henry Cejudo getting poked like crazy in that big controversy, and then the next week in the title fight again we have eye pokes. I don't want to say deciding the fight, but contributing to the fight, sadly, and diminishing that victory a little bit that Manel Kape enjoyed. James, what was your takeaway in terms of the eye pokes happening and how they impacted the fight?
Well, I mean, my understanding is I think they were using the new gloves, but this is weird, by the way. I don't know if you guys know this. My understanding is they're using the new gloves for the fight night cards, and they're using the old gloves for the pay-per-views. Did you guys know this? I heard this.
I thought they got rid of the new gloves completely. I didn't know that. No,
apparently they're using the new gloves, is my understanding. I might be wrong about that, but someone told me that's well connected, and I thought that was kind of interesting and kind of weird, to be honest. But I think like eye pokes that are that bad, there's got to be a point taken away. I talked about this. I was at UFC Seattle. I live in Vancouver. It's not that far away, so I went and covered that event, and there definitely should have been a point taken away for that. Now, Because like if you just like in the case of Cejudo, like you couldn't continue, it really compromised the fight regardless of what you thought of how Song was doing in that fight prior. And now we've got another issue with it here with an eye poke. It takes away from it. I mean, imagine if this never happened, we'd be talking, I mean, there'd be more talk about Kape fighting for the title, but I did that video the other day talking about Kape and his performance, but everyone was talking about the eye pokes. It sort of overshadows things. And listen, Justin knows this, like if eye pokes happen, they're accidents, in certain cases, like these things happen, but it's also something that is taking away from wins and losses for certain fighters.
Justin, what is your take from the fighter perspective, being in there? And definitely Manel Kape was looking amazing. He looked like he had a massive speed advantage, was probably going to get the victory. But then he does that eye poke. He kind of rakes across his eye. His opponent's calling for a timeout. The ref doesn't get him, and then he's finished right after that. How does that make you feel as the fighter, thinking about his opponent and what he went through?
I mean, you look at my last fight. If you guys saw, Chris Tione, good friend of mine, he was the referee. I got a thumb right in the eye, man. I back off. I hold my eye. I asked to stop. My opponent actually steps back, stops. We talked about this last week. Steps back, stops, and Chris goes, nope, keep fighting. And then 10 seconds later, I'm kicked in the head from that side, and I get knocked out. So, I totally understand the frustration. And, I think that if, like we talked last week, if you call for an eye poke, if I get poked in the eye and I step back and we get stopped, we have replay now. We can replay this. If I got poked in the eye, all right, I should get the 5-minute break. But if I'm calling for an eye poke and we review it and if I didn't get poked in the eye, I think there should be a point deducted on the athlete that calls for the eye poke that never happened. There has to be we have to be held accountable on both ends. We have to be held accountable for the eye poke, incidental or not. But we also have to be held accountable for if we get a break in the action when something didn't happen. I think if you get called for an eye poke, I think it should be stopped. And I think it should be reviewed. If it's reviewed and you got poked in the eye, you get a 5-minute break. If it happens twice, a point deduction for the guy that did the eye poke. And if he gets reviewed and you actually didn't get poked in the eye, because that does happen too, guys will get a knuckle in the eye like we talked about. They think they're poked in the eye. They get a stop. They get a 5-minute break to let their brain recover. If that happens, it should be immediate point deduction for the guy calling for the eye poke.
There was one point in the fight on Saturday where Mike Beltran went to the official reviewing the footage, and he's like, nope, it was good. And he's like, nope, keep fighting. So that I know that can happen pretty quickly. Even if he calls for a break, they only got like a 10-second break. And then whether it was right or wrong, he had them continue to fight. So that could be something that could mitigate that time loss. And by the way, James, I did know that you were at the fight because I listened to all the press conference. I watch MMA stuff all the time. I love fighter interviews. I love all that stuff. And I heard you asking the question about going to Vancouver. He's like, are you from Dana White's like, are you from Vancouver?
Yeah, that's
right. Yeah. Sorry, I did know that. Okay. All right. Great conversation. Let me play a couple comments that people are coming in through the live chat, and then we're going to move on. So Two Smelly Fingers says that eye pokes are the best base for MMA. Yeah, he goes, you can't hit what you can't see. That is very true. And MGal4 Production says, yeah, he eye poked him twice. Yeah, he did. That's right. So it is unfortunate. But anyways, I hope the overarching message is that Manel Kape has the skills. Despite that mistake, he does hopefully will get a title shot. Yeah, the only thing that was a bummer to me was after those eye pokes, he kept having his hands outstretched. It's like, you're obviously not even trying to avoid that, but it is what it is. I still want to see him get that next title shot. Okay, let's keep it moving. Now, we are 1 week, not even 1 week away, 5 days away from this fight that everybody's been freaking out for. It's kind of funny how people have been calling for Ankalaev for a while, and it felt like the UFC, I don't know what you want to call it, James, if you agree or disagree, maybe Pereira was being a little protected from him. And so maybe people were kind of excited about it. But once people started to feel that, now the anticipation, I think, is through the roof for this fight for a lot of folks, which is super cool. Alex Pereira, arguably one of the most popular fighters in the UFC right now. So let's talk about this. Ankalaev claiming he's not going to shoot any takedowns. I don't know if I believe that. James, what are your initial thoughts? How do you see this going?
Yeah, this is a tough one because obviously Pereira has the ability to knock anyone out. It's 5 rounds, lots of time to go land that shot and get the knockout. The thing is with Ankalaev, that's compared to all the other opponents he's fought at light heavyweight for the most part, is they've mainly been strikers. So you haven't seen them attempt takedowns or work the ground game or anything like that. And that's where Ankalaev can do that. And Ankalaev's not a typical Dagestani fighter, right? Like you think of Khabib and Islam. He's not like that. His last fight with Alexander Rakic was mainly a striking fight, and he ended up winning that. I don't believe that Ankalaev, like, listen, it took, you mentioned it there that, Ankalaev, it was a long road to the title shot. And I have a feeling it's because of that Jan Blachowicz and Ankalaev fight from a couple years ago. Dana White hated that fight. So it's like, okay, you're sort of on the bad list. And because it was so dumb. They had Khalil Roundtree fighting for the title when he really shouldn't have got that opportunity. And granted, it ended up being a great fight. And then it's like, and Dana's excuse was, well, we had him booked against Rakic. It's like, no, you know who the title challenger is going to be next. Like, no one's buying that. You just didn't want him to fight next. Yeah. So there was that side of it. And then also, like, he's a lot of his fights were going the distance. I know he beat Johnny Walker, finished him, but like, even Rakic last fight was a decision. There's been a few decision ones there. So sort of led up to all that. The reason I bring all that up is because, like, you think of how hard it was for him to get the title shot. I can't imagine he's going to play into Pereira's game by just striking with him. Now, listen, I think he's a capable striker. He's very technical. He's very good. I think people are maybe underrating that aspect of his game, but he's got the other stuff in his back pocket. He's got the wrestling. He's got the jiu-jitsu. He doesn't use it very much, but there's also a guy in Ankalaev who doesn't get hit as much. You look at some of the opponents that Pereira's fought, like Jamal Hill or more so Yuri than anyone. Yuri gets hit a lot, even prior to him winning the title. You even go back to his days in Rizin, he was getting hit a lot. So that's one thing where it was kind of a tailor-made fight for Alex. You're fighting a guy who gets hit a lot, of course you're probably going to win by knockout. So I think with this fight, if Ankalaev can be defensively sound in this fight, if he can mix in a few takedowns, if he can find success in the takedowns like Jan Blachowicz did, because that fight was close. It was a split decision win for Pereira, but it was very, very close. I think Ankalaev can win this. So I am leaning more Ankalaev because I think over the 5 rounds, he has more ways to win. However, like, and I know there's going to be people after the fact be like, I told you so. I'm very aware that Alex Pereira can knock him out. Like, I think it's really a 50-50 fight. And maybe Ankalaev does stand and trade with him, which would be a terrible idea. I'll go give you an old school reference here. Years ago in Strikeforce, Andrei Arlovsky fought Brett Rogers. Remember that back in the day? And Andrei Arlovsky should have won that fight. He lost by knockout. Do you want to know why? Because he stood and traded with Brett Rogers. The only way Brett Rogers was going to win that fight was by knockout. He could have taken him down. He could have done all this different stuff. Why play into your opponent's strengths? Why not just try and win the fight? So I think Ankalaev could win a decision here. But again, Pereira can knock anyone out, so wouldn't be surprised if that happens either.
Well, Justin, as Justin knows, I always pick with my heart. I can't ever really pick with my head. So I'm picking Pereira all the way because, as I said, he's probably my second favorite fighter after Khamzat Chimaev in the UFC. Love watching his fights. Cannot wait for Saturday. But that's my pick. All right, Justin, let me turn. And I'm so excited to see if his takedown defense and his grappling has improved, because I bet you it's improving exponentially at this point because it's so new to him and he's got such a great team and he's so dialed in. So I'm expecting big things, but let's see what happens. Justin, how do you see this fight unfolding?
As you know, Pereira is one of my favorite guys, man. He's really, he does, for not speaking English hardly, man. It's because that's usually how I adapt to the fight, or really get on fighters. And he's just been so exciting, and just to see what he's done in the division. But with that being said, he hasn't faced any heavy, strong wrestlers. I feel that what Ankalaev's game plan in this fight, depending on what it is how this fight's going to go. Again, is Ankalaev want to come out, and try to dick measure with him and be like, hey, look, I can strike too, and look for a big knockout. If he gets in there and knocks Pereira out, man, that's going to make Dana White, that's going to make the UFC happy, and that matters. Keeping the boss happy matters. So, or is he going to try a wrestling heavy approach? If he tries the wrestling heavy approach, obviously I feel he has a better chance. But again, is he going to take a game plan that's going to make the boss happy? I guess we'll find out this weekend.
Oh, so many unanswered questions that will be answered. This is going to be such a tremendous fight. And then what could be in the future for Pereira if he wins? It's just so much fun. All right, real quick, Izzy Slots, your boy, Justin says, Alex has some monster wrestling training partners from Georgia. See, I love hearing this. Has some monster training partners from Georgia in his camp right now. His counter wrestling is going to be good. I can't wait. I hope Ankalaev tries to take him down, and I hope Alex Pereira stuffs everything, because everybody will completely change their tune. Remember, Anthony Smith was kind of saying he's surprised that Pereira has done as well as he has. Other folks have said the same thing. How incredible would it be if he could just get everybody to stop? And by the way, James, one of the two other things I want to say. So you mentioned Dana White not liking Ankalaev after that fight. I think it's a combination of the fight was lackluster, but also, and obviously a draw, like that's so disappointing, but also he made some negative comments about the UFC after that. I don't know if you guys remember, but he was like, yeah, if this is the case, I may as well quit the UFC or something like that. Like, he was so mad. And I think those negative statements also rub people the wrong way. So it is what it is. But anyways, all right, let's keep it moving to our next topic. Gaethje versus Fiziev. So, James, before we even get into the fight and how we think it's going to go, I want to tell you my thoughts when this fight was announced. Because I'd love to know what your thoughts were, just in terms of excitement. I was disappointed. Look at Justin Zug. I was disappointed when this fight was announced because I didn't want to see a rematch. Also, one where Gaethje already won, and Gaethje already took the risk of fighting this guy as he was on the come up, and he beat him. So why take that risk again? That's the way I looked at it. I'm not excited to see this. I was very excited to see Hooker. What about you? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it should have been Gamrot. The UFC really must not like him, from having the backup spot to Islam and Charles Oliveira and not getting it, and they went with Volk, to now this situation where it appeared that he was available and they opted, because Gamrot's last fight was Dan Hooker. It was close, right? Like, some people felt like Gamrot should have won. That should have been the fight. I'm with you. We already saw this fight. Nothing against Fiziev, but he didn't fight at all last year. His last fight was Gamrot in 2023, so long layoff coming into this fight. And the other thing that's surprising here, Fiziev's the favorite. I don't understand that on the betting odds when Gaethje already beat him. Is it that because Gaethje's older? He's not that much older. He's 4 years older than him. Granted, he's coming off a tough knockout loss to Max Holloway, but I think that I know fans wouldn't have been happy about this because they want pure violence. You're going to get more violence with Fiziev and Gaethje. I just think for Gamrot, I did want to see that chess match and how that would go, but maybe Justin didn't want that fight. I don't know. So to me, they're going with a more entertaining option.
I would have been more interested in the Gamrot fight too, just to see what would happen. And I get that fans feel that way. Justin, turning it over to you. I know Justin Gaethje is Justin's favorite fighter. I'm sure you are excited just about the fighting, like the way the fight that will unfold. But would you have rather seen Gamrot, since it would have been a fresh matchup?
Yeah, exactly. We talk about this rinse and reuse in the lightweight division. Everything's a rematch. Everyone's fighting 2-3 times now. I would have preferred the Gamrot because, again, it's a fresh fight. I mean, this is going to be an action-packed fight. But, again, Max, Holloway, what he did to Justin Gaethje and the way he knocked him out, man, I'm really concerned because there's going to be a lot of violence in this fight. And if Justin goes in there with his hands down and get caught, I mean, who knows where his brain is right now, man. The guy's been in so many wars. I am concerned about him taking damage. I am concerned about him taking years off his life, man. This is more than entertainment. This guy has a life to live after the UFC, and I think this matchup can be dangerous for him, especially. I mean, guys get knocked out, and again, I talk about it's like unscrewing a bottle. You might get that little twist, but now like one more shot. I mean, he could be out in one shot, and I guess we'll find out. But man, I am really nervous about this fight for Justin Gaethje.
I believe from Justin's interview, I know I told you what he said last week, but I do take him at his word. I think he's done the proper rest and recovery. I think he's got an amazing coach, Trevor Whitman, that has probably made sure that he's done everything and anything possible to help his brain recover. I think Justin's going to win. Regardless of the odds. I don't even know how odds makers came up with that, because Fiziev is on a 2-fight losing streak, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't understand just because Justin got knocked out. Like I don't get that. I think Justin's going to get it again, even though it was a pretty close fight the first time. And I'm definitely rooting for Justin. So those are my thoughts. Hold on. We got another comment from Izzy Slots. He said, my best friend after winning states from high school didn't want to wrestle in college, but his dad told him if he tried it one year, it would pay. Wait, what is this? Izzy Slots? I'm not sure what this is. This is Justin's boy, by the way. He says, stop. His first, what's that? It's Roman, right? Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure what he's talking about, but hey, cool. Talking about wrestling. And then we got, let's see if we got any other interesting. Oh yeah, MGAL4 Productions. I already responded to this comment. He said it's at 155. Your fight's at 160. All right. Well, anyways, that is Gaethje versus Fiziev. And James, by the way, I don't think I asked you. We talked about the fight, but like in terms of the odds, are you picking Justin or are you picking Fiziev?
I am picking Justin. Yeah, I just think like overall the resume. I mean, we're 2 fights removed from him finishing Poirier. I think people forget that. Like that was a very good win. The 300 fight was kind of put together just to appease the fans. I mean, Gaethje, I think beating Poirier at that point should have been in contention for fighting for the title. And so it was kind of a weird fight. It didn't end up going his way. I think Gaethje will look better on Saturday and get the win over Fiziev.
Of course, he had his nose broken in the first round. So I feel like people forgot about the fact that he couldn't breathe the entire fight and was struggling and still stuck in there for 4 rounds. Like, that's so crazy. We were talking about this the other day with the Sean Strickland fight. So think about it like this. People were giving Sean crap for having his nose broken and maybe not putting his foot down on the gas pedal. I don't know, whatever it was. But sometimes I think the perspective of fighters gets so skewed. Like, James, think about this. Think about if you're out with your boys on Saturday night and one of your friends gets into a fight with like a bunch of dudes, gets his nose broken and continues to fight for another 10 minutes. You come home that day, be like, dude, he's such a legend. What a beast. But then you see Sean Strickland, like a professional fighter, do it. And you're like, he should have fought harder. Like, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
He's adjusting his nose in the fight and continuing to go. So yeah,
because they don't fight, they don't understand. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like, that's why fans feel the way they do, because they just don't understand it. Like, it's crazy to me that they want to critique that when it's like, and Sean's always sort of been, a bit more of a passive fighter, more defensive. But listen, his nose broke, he fought on. That's that you got to give him credit for that. So
do you train at all?
I don't. I played hockey. I got in a few fights there. That's about as close to the combat sports experience I've had. But just hockey and played hockey and soccer growing up.
Fights on the skates, right on. Yeah, we were talking to Justin. What's your boy from the Mac Life? Willis.
Oscar Willis. Yeah.
Oscar Willis, yeah.
Justin trained him for his MMA fight, and then
I heard. I talked to Oscar actually last week in Seattle. I was asking him about that whole thing. I think that's so cool he did that.
So cool. Yeah. Massive respect. Okay, let's move along here to our next topic. Now, I wanted to bring up Ilia. I made a video about this Saturday, I think, on our channel about the no more double champs, and now Ilia's moved up. I've heard some fighters say that there's no way he would have moved up without some assurance that he would be fighting Islam next. But then I hear Islam doesn't want to fight him. But now he's officially a lightweight. He's not the what's called featherweight champ, just moving up to try and get double champ status. So everything is different. James, you probably know way more than we do about what might be happening behind the scenes. Do you have a thought as to what might be happening next with Ilia?
I do, and I actually got to take off, so I'm going to make this my last point, my parting shot, so to speak. Ilia Topuria, I think that he wants to get that double champ status. He's the guy that's talked about not being in the sport too long. Easiest way to do that is to try and win 2 belts. UFC, is my understanding, they don't want champions with 2 belts at the same time. So I think, while he said it's Ilia who wanted to vacate, I doubt that was the case. I think they told him, if you want to fight at 55, you got to vacate, so he does that. I think they're working on Ilia and Islam for an international fight week in July. I think that would be a huge fight, huge card. I know there's some talk about Arman fighting Ilia, which I don't know if that will ever be a thing, but I think that's what they're working on. And I think for Ilia, it's about chasing greatness without having to do all the fights. So again, he does this, he fights Islam, he wins 2 belts. Think about where he'd be in combat sports history. Follow me on Twitter, Lynch on Sports. We got to do this again, guys. Keep in touch. And so I got to go do my interview. Take care, guys. See ya.
Thanks, James. Appreciate you, James.
Hey, okay, James Lynch. There we go. And we got some good insights there. So he thinks they're going to make Islam against Ilia. And who else would know other than James Lynch? He's been in the game for so long. That's wild for International Fight Week. Justin, who would you be more excited for what fight? Ilia versus Islam or Khamzat versus Dricus being announced for International Fight Week? Which one would you prefer?
Probably for Ilia versus Islam, because, I hear a lot of guys, Dustin Poirier included, talk about Ilia's power and that he thinks he can knock Islam out. And it's not just Dustin Poirier, but he's in the boxing world, and I respect his opinion a lot. So for him to come out, other fighters have said it too, but for Dustin Poirier to come out and talk about Ilia's power, talk about Ilia's boxing, watch him knock out Max Holloway, watch him knock out Volkanovski, that's a fight that's intriguing. Ilia has become, like him or not, he has become the legend killer. And can he keep that momentum going at lightweight? I would love to find out.
I would love to find out too, and I bet he can knock out anybody. I wouldn't be surprised.
He can't knock out me. I'll eat that shit, dog.
It will be a great fight. But oh my god, no! Dricus versus Khamzat is so intriguing to me. It's a fresh matchup. He's never had a chance to be champ, and I think, I hope that's the fight that they make for International Fight Week. But James probably knows. So
what about Maine and Co? What if they put them on the same card?
No way.
Same card.
That's a joke.
Would you freak out? Would you be pissed?
I would be pissed. Yeah.
Khamzat was a co-main?
No. Yeah, but that's ridiculous. That's disrespectful. He's going to be the biggest star of the UFC. Yeah, I would be pissed. They would never do that though. He's gonna headline. That's gonna be the biggest fight of the year, in my opinion. Whether or not it is the most anticipated, in retrospect, people will be like, "Holy smokes, that was fight of the year," because it will be crazy. It will be the highest stakes, and I think it's gonna be pretty cool what happens. Two Smelly Fingers again says no. Izzy Slot says, I think Ilia wins. You think Ilia beats Islam? Justin, you think so too?
I don't know, man. I'll be honest. I have no idea. I don't even want to throw a prediction out there. Like I said, I've heard guys say that he can win and that he's going to win. Every time. I've lost a lot of money betting against Ilia. I took Volkanovski. I took Max Holloway. So I'm not making an opinion on this because I'm not losing any more money.
I mean, of course, Ilia could win. Obviously, that's why we love the sport. It's not a done deal. It's going to be a very. I just think that I don't know. I put so much faith in not only his regimen, his discipline, his skills, but also his team, and that they're going to just come up with a killer game plan, and they're going to find a way. If you go back and you look at the way Khabib fought Conor, I don't think people give Khabib enough credit for the strategy that he devised. They just think, oh, he would just went in and totally outworked him. I remember one of the things that Khabib was doing right from the beginning, the direction in which he was circling. I think it was Dominic Cruz or somebody who looked at the fight after the fact, and they're like, that was a very smart strategy out the gate. The way he was circling to basically, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like basically diminishing Conor's ability to land a knockout shot or a heavy shot, and it just kind of throw off his rhythm. So they had like everything down from a tee from the beginning of the fight. He was following a very specific plan, and I've heard that Islam follows plans even better than Khabib. So I just think they're going to come up with an amazing strategy with how we shall see. Oh my God, Izzy says Ilia should be a -200 again. Islam, I can't. No, there's no way. I mean, maybe Izzy Slots, that's your boy, right? You're the expert.
Roman.
Yeah,
he's a professional gambler, man. He's a professional slot player, so maybe he knows something we don't.
You probably know way more than I do for sure on that front. Who knows, man? Maybe those will be the official odds. I guess we'll see. Okay, let's move on to this final topic. It's a fun topic because it's just rumors, and I don't know if there's any truth to this. I wanted to ask James Lynch about this because I have no idea. But let's go to pretend land here. If this was announced, Bo Nickal versus Paulo Costa. We talked about how excited I was, and you were too, for Paddy Pimblett versus Michael Chandler, because it's one of these massively touted prospects finally getting into the big leagues, finally getting their shot against really tough competition. And let's see, it's make or break time. That's what's so exciting about this game. What would you foresee if they did throw Bo Nickal against Costa at this point at some future fight, like right around the corner?
I was so unimpressed with Bo Nickal in his last fight. Fighting a very strong grappler, didn't go for any takedowns. Bo, your strength is wrestling. I know you're fighting a very strong wrestler. Maybe you just didn't want to play in his guard. I don't know, but your striking looked very, very elementary, man. I was very, very unimpressed. I think Costa's a terrible matchup. He's so big, he's so strong. He's going to be hard to take down for Bo, and I think Costa's just going to overwhelm him with pressure and violence, and Bo's going to realize that he's not in the right sport.
Whoa! Holy smokes! Interesting. I mean,
look how bad he looked. I'm not saying unless he just had a bad performance, but he looked like a regional fighter that, he didn't even take the guy down. He didn't even try to take him down, from my understanding. Or actually, I did watch. I think I was so bored with the fight. I turned the channel. Again, he's an incredible wrestler. I mean, he has a lot of potential. But Paulo Costa is a gangster, man. Paulo Costa is tough. Paulo Costa's been there, done that. And unfortunately, I just don't for Bo. I don't see him. I can see him taking him down, but this is a huge step up in competition, man. And even if he does take him down, I don't think he was going to hold him down, and there's no chance that he wins on the feet.
I think, okay, look, let me tell you this. A lot of people have said what you're saying. By the way, I'm also looking up I want to look up Paulo Costa's record just to take a quick look at his, who he's beaten, so we can have a little bit more of an in-depth conversation. But it's not as though I'm so shocked by your opinion, because a lot of people have said what you're saying, but I'm a little bit more surprised, I guess, to hear it from you, because I know you always talk about how important wrestling is to the sport of mixed martial arts, what a grounding foundation it has. And so Bo Nickal, arguably the most decorated wrestler, or one of them, maybe not the most, but one of them in the history of the UFC. I am a little surprised that you would say that, but that is in line with what so many people have said. So let's take a look at some of the people Paulo Costa has beat. He did beat Yoel Romero, but he rarely ever uses his wrestling, or doesn't really use it, even though he's a tremendous wrestler. He has beaten Luke Rockhold. Man, he's lost 4 out of his 5 last fights. Lost to Izzy.
Who they bet to? Izzy, Sean,
Vettori, Sean, and Whitaker. But Whitaker also was a decision, granted unanimous. 3
former champions, though.
Yeah, for sure. He beat Uriah Hall. He's beaten Johnny Hendricks. I don't know. All right.
I just think this is too big of a step up in competition for Bo. He's not well-rounded enough for this. He needs he's another favorable fight, and this is not a favorable fight. I'm putting all my money on Costa.
Now, that being said, would you be excited to see this fight? Is this a fight that would get you? Because it gets me excited. I love seeing the test. And if Paulo Costa is going to win, I love Paulo Costa too. I think it's going to be a fun fight. Does it get you excited or no?
Not really, because I do want to see Bo develop a little bit more in his skill set. Again, I want him to be working on his striking. I think he should go to Thailand for a little while. And again, you look at his last fight, he looked terrible on his feet, and he
He
didn't
did.
even use his best asset. His best asset's wrestling. And I know he fought a very strong grappler, man, that could get subbed off his back. But when you're fighting at the high level, you have to use your best assets. His best assets is wrestling. He's already won a fight without using it. That fight was boring as could be. Again, I'll watch this fight, but it's not a fight I'm looking forward to.
That's fair. That's fair. I am excited to see that. Yeah, man. I kind of look at his striking. I'm like, dang, I feel like I can strike better than Bo Nickal. What's going on? Like, it's a little crazy. I want to go train in Thailand. By the way, I was just talking about this over the weekend. I need to do it. I mean, I got to go out there this summer and spend a week or two at what's it called, Tiger Muay Thai or one of those other gyms, and just go to town. That'd be so fun. Anyways. Well, it's an interesting matchup. I know Justin's not too excited about it. I very much would be. I'd love to see Paulo Costa come back and really challenge Bo Nickal. And Bo Nickal's talking a lot of smack. What's up, Lane? So, yeah, just highlighting Lane. Lane says, what's good? Not much. All right. We are going to wrap up the show. Guys, Justin James fighting, headlining in Missoula, Montana on Friday. Everybody get in your messages now if you want to wish him best of luck, because I'm guessing you're not going to be on the show on Friday because I want to keep
I'll be on the show on Friday.
You want to do the show on Friday?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it ain't no thing.
So we'll see. We will see Justin back on Friday. But again, if something changes, dude, you just got to do whatever you got to do to keep yourself focused and in the right headspace. But if we do see Justin back on Friday, great. But if not, this is our send off to Justin. He's going into battle on Friday. Bare knuckle, as James Lynch said, many fighters are like, nah, bare knuckle, that's too intense. Justin's going for it. Lane says, win, Justin. LFG, we know what that stands for. Let's go. Western says, good luck, Justin. Let's go.
Appreciate
all right. So, guys, thank you for all the support. We really appreciate it. And yeah, we're going in. I'll be commentating while Justin does his thing. Justin, do you have any final words before this Friday?
No, just appreciate all the support, guys. All our new subscribers, man. We're almost to 1,500. We've basically tripled our subscribers in the last 2 months. So just want to say thank you for all you guys. And, if you guys have any topics you want to talk about, any questions you want to ask, I got a lot of insight and a lot of different things, and Josefa does as well. So please send us messages, send us comments. Appreciate you guys reaching out on Instagram. Again, my Instagram's wide open. Send me a message if you have any questions, and thank you for all the support.
All right, here we go. Oh, one last comment. Dab Snake says, let's go, JJ. Murk the other dude up. All right.
Boy, let's go.
All right, and we'll post the information on Friday as well if you guys want to buy the fight or stream the fight and check it out that way. Oh, yeah, by the way, my boy, what's his name? Ramel, he's going to stream the fight, so he says he's going to support you that way. All right, thank you guys so much for joining. We really appreciate it. We'll see you on Friday. Fight day. Let's go. And then UFC 313 this weekend. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we will see you in the next video. Take it easy.